Start building a network, either in person or online. In person is always the best. Meeting people face to face is still better than online. Because they say like money is like the third thing that people decide in their jobs. And I'm like, well, kind of. If most people were like, we're an accountant or something, and they just stopped paying you, would you still do it? Because of the e-commerce thing, I was just like, how do I increase people coming to the page? I get 1,000 people to the page every day. How do I get more people to order, right? Everyone uses YouTube. There's no one in the world that doesn't use YouTube anymore. I got into this in 2013 with 3D printers. How much cheap plastic shit can I print out of my apartment? But like, if this is gonna go away, like what happens? That's scary, because you don't know. You're like, this is what I'm good at. Currently, it's for that, but it's going to be much better. It'll actually start helping you create those things soon. You deserve this. And like, who the fuck deserves anything? No, you don't. You don't deserve anything.
Today we have a guest who's incredibly persuasive with his words. He's the brains behind Copywriting course, swipefile.com, Nevblog, and the House of Ray. He has advised companies like The Hustle, the AppSumo, and he's also helped companies like AppSumo achieve their highest sales day ever. When he's not busy teaching the art of persuasive writing, he's probably playing one of his favorite instruments, or he's going on another adventure. Please join me in welcoming the man who proves the pen is mightier than the sword. So initially, I think you got into e-commerce, but then what stumbled you into copywriting?
Well, because of the e-commerce thing, I was just like, how do I increase people coming to the page? I get 1,000 people to the page every day. How do I get more people to order, right? So if one person is ordering, that's a 0.01% conversion rate. If I get it to 1%, I make 10 times more orders. So what can I do? I could add better pictures, better headlines, describe the product better. One thing people always ask, they called the support line about asking about what type of batteries. And I was like, well, I can just write AA batteries, done, right?
What if I took all your content from that blog
yeah,
and pumped it into ChatGPT and be like, write me something in the tone of Neville Medhora? How do you feel about that? Does that worry you, or does that excite you?
I mean, I don't know if that worries or excites me in terms of that, like, how can I utilize that? And I've been using it all morning. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, all of these models are like almost the same for what most people want to do. I think if you're doing some advanced programming stuff, these edge cases, I think you start to see the difference in some of them. But I think they're all like inching up really fast. Like one goes ahead and then another one catches up, then another one gets ahead and one gets cheaper, etc.
Yeah.
So they're all really, really good. I use AI all the time for stuff that it's not a replacement for what I used to do. Because, for example, we used to put out blog posts to get like SEO traffic. Now that whole world is like, I mean, I don't know, effectively dead in a way. Like just writing a blog post to say like the 10 best tips about copy. AI can do that better and customize it for you. I could say, give me the 10 best tips on copy on this piece of copy for Mana, for my podcast. My blog post can never do that. So that is gone. The AI is better.
One thing you are a master of, and I really want to learn that from you, is how you make your copy sound so relatable. And you're quite entertaining in your copy, which I think most people suck. We're quite boring, you know. You make it sound like like you make it sound funny, like, and people want to read even the promotional stuff. Like, how do you do that?
It's conversational, and I just have like a complete disrespect for any like the current grammar rules or the ways that things are done. And it's not a disrespect. It's just that I never thought like, who made these rules? Who says? The Oxford Dictionary? Some dude that made this up? Like, what are you talking about? I can do whatever I want. I can communicate however I want. You can't tell me what to do. And so similar to that, I'm just like, well, instead of really like, to whom it may concern, it used to be like everyone write like that way just because that's what you're taught in English class. I'm like, well, I don't care about sounding like that. I want to sound like me. And so I kind of write like I talk. It's very conversational. And I also try to crack myself up. It's like, why not make it humorous if I can? That's not the goal, but if I can and make it more engaging, why not? I'm sure you've read books that keep you hooked, right? And some that don't. What's the difference? And it's like, it's probably just stuff is like just a little bit easier to read. They're not trying to impress you or anything like that. They're just trying to get the point across.
Talking about books, I know you're in the middle of writing one.
Yeah.
What's the theme?
I'm not going to say, but it's a specific formula. It's all about one thing. Yeah.
It's all about one thing.
Yeah, it's all about one thing, because I love short books. So my last book that actually did, I wrote a couple of books. The one that did well was 43 pages long and 6x9. It's tiny.
Yeah.
And you can read it in under 30 minutes, like anyone.
And Neville has made a course called the Copywriting course. And I just want to regurgitate some of the stats behind the course, which is, in my opinion, is one of the most incredible courses ever made.
Thanks.
So this course has about 1 billion emails sent, 10,000 students, 750 companies impacted, more than 20 plus years of experience, 51,000 plus product sales, millions in digital sales, 845 consulting sessions plus, and it has reached more than 3.4 email inboxes. If you look at the overall impact of the course, it's been incredible. And I think Have you turned that course into like a SaaS product now and it's just infinitely scalable?
No. So it's still kind of a service. So our cap on users, like it's usually between 600 and 1,000 people. And there's certain promotions that happen throughout the year. It's usually like a $97 a month or like $1,000 a year kind of like structure, similar like that. So it's not full SaaS. But what it is people come in, they can watch videos of Neville explaining stuff, right? That's obviously part of the appeal. And then the other part is if you have, let's say, a sign-up page that's not working very well, you can post it to like our community area, and myself and all the other writers and other community members go and say, hey, change this, update that. What if you change this headline to that? And people go, holy crap, I never thought about that. They change it, bam, instant update, right? So instead of getting 10%, they get 20% conversion rate or whatever it is. And so they see these instant wins like that when someone just gives them advice. And we all get blinders when you look at your own podcast page or something a million times. You're like, I don't know what to do to update it. And someone else looks at it and it's like, I don't get what that means. What if you put a number here? What if you say that? And you go, oh, cool. So that's a big part of it. And then also every Thursday, we have like an office hours where I get on the call myself and then we record questions and stuff. And that part's really cool. So it's like a 3-pronged thing. It's courses, community, and then like these live office hour sessions.
And I know you've evolved the course a lot over the years, but what makes it so successful compared to like these other ones like Ship 30 for 30 or like the other ones? What makes
I think those have done well too. And I'm not saying like there can only be one on the planet. I think people have to like my style. So that's one thing. Like obviously, like there is part of me that's like kind of at the base of it. So they have to like my style. They have to like my stuff. They are usually in a similar kind of industry, some sort of internet industry, but we get so many people from like the train industry, like random stuff like that, any sort of sales industry. And I think it's just that we give people a lot of help. I think people, when they launch a course is a little bit on the way out because now it's like, dude, you go on YouTube, you get really good stuff. AI is improving every 3 months. I mean, it could just train you. Like you don't necessarily need Neville to sit there and explain stuff to you anymore. You can have your own custom avatar do that. You can have your own AI do it. So I don't think you really need courses as much. That's why we went to a service model years ago, maybe over 5 years ago. So I think that's why ours has endured, whereas others have fallen off. The other thing is, I think a lot of places that do copywriting train you to become a copywriter to sell that service. I don't think everyone could become a copywriter. That's not what I think. I think if you're a business owner, having some copyright injected in whatever you do will really help. But my goal is not to train you to be a copywriter to take clients.
I mean, even if you don't become a copywriter, you're still writing emails. You can still use that knowledge to make your
it actually doesn't really make as much sense. If you want to be a copywriter, you have to learn copy if you don't have a business to apply it to. So then you have to go get clients and convince them. Whereas if you're a business owner and you learn a little bit of copywriting, you're like, oh, I could write a better headline for this. You can instantly implement that and see results right away. So I think for business owners, it's more important to become copywriters. My buddy Sam Parr, one of the best copywriters I know, he's not like a copywriter for hire. He runs his own business.
Also, copywriting has changed a lot. Like I was reading the David Ogilvy book. He used to write so many words. Now with our attention spans of TikTok, like how has copywriting changed in your opinion?
I think it's how's the technology changed. Back in the day, you have an article like in a newspaper or a magazine, and you have to make people read it all in one sitting. So of course you have to have like a long piece of copy. You just have one shot at it. Now we have Twitter, we have X, Instagram. So you can see stuff over and over and over the course of months. Things can be shorter. You could break things down into smaller chunks. And that's a function of technology, not our attention spans. People say it's like our attention spans got shorter. It's like, no, they didn't have TikTok in 1870. But if you took TikTok back to 1870, sure as hell, everyone will be watching it. It's not because their attention spans are shorter. It's just because it's more compact information in a smaller place. Like, why wouldn't you watch
It's like the meme where you see everyone reading a newspaper on like in the 80s.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, no one's talking to each other. Every generation has the same thing that happens. Yeah, but the technology dictates the function. So how come video has exploded recently? Because we couldn't watch video before, right? Now we all have phones over here, and so we can watch video anywhere on the go with free data, essentially. That didn't exist 10, 20 years ago, so video wasn't as big except for TV. So as we get more and more different types of technologies, we'll see more and more different types of formats get popular.
And I read one of your goals for this year was to revamp the swipefile.com.
Yeah,
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so swipefile.com is the internet swipe file. So basically a swipe file is a folder of like print ads, magazine ads, all that stuff. But guess what? We have all this other stuff now. We have everything's digital. So I have a digital swipe file. And I was originally just keeping it for myself so I can reference it with my clients, my consulting clients, and then my community members. And then it started just to become a thing. And so I started collecting stuff and putting it up there. And for a couple of years, maybe 5, 6 years, it's been running. And it's just like a WordPress blog that's like a Pinterest clone. And it's just like Neville posting stuff every once in a while. And I was like, damn, I feel like this has so much more potential. And then the new AI features that are going to come out in the next 2-3 years, I think copywriting course is not poised to take it full advantage of those, but Swipefile is. So like making templates out of things, making layered templates where you can just edit stuff directly. So if you see an ad, instead of just being like, cool, there's an ad, what do I do with it? It would automatically say, oh, just load this into Canva or like load this up in a Google Doc on your own. AI will enable that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to poise ourselves for that. So we've been paying a lot more attention to it, developers involved and stuff like that. And so right now you can actually go in and save all your swipes. That's step one. I think that's like a whatever feature. The next feature we're adding actually as of Friday is you'll be able to get a template bank of stuff. So instead of being like, oh, here's a bunch of sales pages, it's like, here's a Google Doc we made that you could just like literally edit and make your sales page. It's Pinterest for marketing nerds. Yeah. Specifically like web page, stuff that can make you money, like web pages, emails, etc. That's like the main goal. It's not for stuff that's like, oh, look at this funny headline. Like there is some of that, but for the most part, it's like, how can you look at something that while you're working on your sales page, get an idea and implement it right away? That's what Swipefile is. And that's what like I actually get really excited about these days. So getting more resources poured into that is pretty fun. I think by the end of the year, this will be kind of a thing. Yeah.
I kind of want to go back to how to sell, because I think to escape the 9 to 5 matrix, you need to sell something, right?
Yeah.
So, something. You have to
Gotta sell something.
Some service, some physical product, something. So let's go back to House of Rave. What was your, like, is it still going on?
AppSumo started getting very big. I was involved in AppSumo, and I was making more profit from AppSumo than revenue from House of Rave at that point. And House of Rave was a dropshipper, Amazon dropshipper, so glow sticks, disco balls, stuff like that. And what happened was Amazon started getting really good. And so the dropshipping margin started getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And I was like, damn, in 5 years, I'm gonna be working way harder and making the same amount of money or less.
Yeah.
So this is like not a good way. So I sold it to a competitor.
And it's you didn't have the headache of actually shipping it. It was a good model in terms of
Drop shipping, yeah.
Yeah.
There was still some headache, but not as much. The manufacturer took care of most of those things. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now basically you can be anywhere with your laptop and that's it.
Doesn't matter. For years, like that scared me away from physical products. Yeah, I still think there's an opportunity there if you own or manufacture your own product. I think you have a moat, but just selling physical products that anyone else can get from Alibaba or something like that, I think that's going to get squeezed a lot. You've heard a lot about people doing like Amazon drop shipping, making their own brand. It's just like, I think the name of the game is out and people know how to do it. And it's just like going to be a race to the bottom. Not for everyone, but for a lot of people.
So imagine I'm like a noob.
Yeah.
Starting my career in the internet world. Give me some basics of copywriting. So how can I, like, these things I can do today to make myself better, except buying your course?
For copywriting specifically?
Yeah.
Start building a network, either in person or online. In person is always the best. Meeting people face to face is still better than online. However, if you live in a place where that's not possible, you live in some bumfuck town where that's not possible, start interacting with people online. I have found that finding my friends, my audience, my best friends, Noah Kagan, Sampar, all these people, I've met them all online. So all you have to do is not like be a guru and start posting on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, but interacting with people back and forth. I personally think Twitter is the best place to meet the smartest people.
Yeah.
That's just where I see like interaction is native to the app versus Instagram's like, hey, look at my picture and don't say anything. So Twitter is like a more of a conversational place. And then you end up meeting those people going, like, I don't know how you exactly found me, but probably through social media to some degree. So you just amplify your sphere of influence in people that you meet. I think that's probably the number one thing I would personally suggest.
One thing I was shocked when I saw your YouTube channel that you've posted 895 videos.
Oh yeah, even shorts, yeah.
I posted like 100 videos
Yeah.
last year. I was shocked. I was like 895 videos. Like how do you feel about YouTube? I know like you've been on it for so long. Like how do you feel about YouTube as a platform?
Dude, it's evolved. It used to be like for 30-second cat videos and stuff like that. It was a joke. Like it was a joke. There's no virality in it. Obviously, that's all changed, right? However, there's pros and cons. Pros, it's huge, right? It reaches everyone. Everyone uses YouTube. There's no one in the world that doesn't use YouTube anymore. The downside is because there's so much good content that if you're just like, hey, here's how you do copywriting, you're likely not going to go viral or get like a ton of traction for that. So you almost have to like start bringing the bringing traffic to the platform. However, you can do certain things to make a lot of videos. For example, I can make a long video and split that up into shorts now. And shorts is like a whole different medium because, you know, the way they display it, just like with scrolling, so if you get 10,000 views on a long video, that's pretty good, right? But 10,000 views in a short, like that's cool. But does it bring you any more clients or subscribers? It's a lot less. The conversion rate and the attention span on the short videos, very low.
It's a great awareness thing though.
Very good for awareness. In fact, that's how I find a lot of podcasts and subscribe is like, I see their shorts just pop up randomly recommended to me. And I see like 70 of them over the course of a year. And I don't even remember. And then every once in a while, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's pretty funny. I like his stuff or I like her stuff. And then I subscribe. So I do think it's like free distribution. persuasion. So it's like, where do these people come from that are subscribing to you? You almost have like no clue anymore.
Yeah.
It's like impossible to track, but I still think it's a really good platform if you're into it, because some people are not into posting videos online.
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. They're not built for it. They don't want to do it. So why try it? If you
I believe in building a system around it. So I just hired a team and their entire job is to post 6 videos a day or six times a day for 30 days. So that's 180 videos.
a lot of videos. Damn.
Yeah. And they're just taking all my podcasts, cutting them into things. And that's how you grow the podcast nowadays.
Yep.
I don't see any other hack.
No, podcasts are hard. And I talked to a guy who runs a podcast agency, and I was just like, for 2025, what should I do with my stuff? And he's like, audio is dumb. Like, audio doesn't grow. There's no virality yet. If Apple starts taking it seriously or something, but video is still the way to go. So I think what you're doing, you take this, you chop it up into a bunch of things, hope people see it. That's kind of the way to grow.
The mindset I'm going with is like, it's going to take 500 episodes. Because I've noticed like Chris Williamson, all the big podcasters, they've been doing it for like 7 years. And people are like, oh my God, Chris popped up. But they don't see like, oh my God, he's been doing it for 7 years. He's posted 3,000 videos on YouTube.
And if you look at people's like shorts page, like the ones you see are the ones with like millions of likes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you look at a lot of others and it's like 9K, which for someone with like 2 million subscribers is like bad. So you don't see all the little like failures along the way. You only see those big things.
Yeah.
But also the guy who runs a podcast agency, shout out to Chris, Ryan Helms. I forgot what his podcast agency is. Ryan Helms, Twitter, you can find him. But he was telling me, it's like, there's like basically 3 ways to grow. It's like get a guest with their own audience, right? So someone who's bigger than you, something that's super novel, like maybe someone has never like interviewed someone. I interviewed the director of engineering for X, and like that one kind of popped off because like we never really gave an interview before. So things like that, just ways to grow along those lines. And then also just like talking head videos, I think reaction videos. There's certain ways like where you got to kind of play this game to gain subscribers. But man, we can have a whole conversation about that. Like my buddy Noah Kagan hit 1 million subscribers and he was just playing to the algorithm, but he really hated it. He didn't love playing to the algorithm. Like he found out like those like knocking on doors videos and stuff, and like
He was going hard.
he was going hard on those. But like I think what you don't see is that sometimes it takes 2 days to film that like 12-minute video.
Yeah.
So one of them he did like, for example, it's like everyone started doing knocking on doors now, right? So everyone sees like, oh, that's popping off. So everyone's doing it. And it's just like, it just starts going down then, right? So then they were like, let's knock on yachts. Now, so that means he's flying Isaac and his team out over to Miami, spending a ton of money on all their flights, all their hotels, all their shit, right? Salary, etc. So already you're like 20 grand in the hole and you haven't even made a stupid video yet. Then you're like, well, where do we go for yachts? Like there's all these other docks. Like which ones do we go to? Then you got to find that out. Then you go there and you're like, oh, they're all private. Like you can't go film on them. So then what? So now you're just like sitting there. It's hot as shit. You're all sweating. You're like, what do we do? And so he's like just going like, hey, come on your yacht, just like yelling at people. And it's like 2 days of filming, and then it ends up like most people are like, no, I don't want this. Yeah. That's like 99% of all the footage. You don't see all that stuff, and then all you see is like, hey, can I talk to you? And it's like, I made $1 million in crypto, whatever. So it's just like you play to the algorithm. But then on the other hand, there's another guy I know, Ross Hudgens, who runs Siege Media, big like SEO company. They work with like Fortune 500 companies for SEO. They don't get a lot of views on their videos. And he purposely was just like, I'm not going to go like the newbie SEO route. I'm only talking about large scale, like L'Oreal or Nike or someone, like the director of marketing at those. I want to talk directly to those people. So he does interviews and videos that are so specific and high level. They get very few views, but if he gets a lead and a contract, $10 million. So it's like, it just depends which game you want to play. And I used to like the kind of like, oh, you get like to 100,000 subscribers, and that I'm past it. I'm like, how many of those people are actually customers? It's difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell. It's really good for social credibility though.
So I just met a woman at a party, Casey.
Okay.
She sells incredible paintings. She sells 1 to 2 paintings every month, and each painting goes for like $100,000 to $200,000. And she has like millions of followers on TikTok, millions of followers on Instagram. One video is like 40 million views, that kind of thing. And I was talking to her. I was like, how do you sell your paintings? And she was like, you're not gonna believe it. She's like, I haven't had a single sale from Instagram or TikTok. I only get hate comments, like people like criticizing her art. She has sold all her paintings through LinkedIn.
Oh.
And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I've sold all my paintings through LinkedIn because some executive sees it and they're like, okay, I'll get it.
Yeah.
So I also think there's some value in finding like, something that no one's thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, we have an agency that posts on all of the different social networks, including LinkedIn. And I'm actually surprised when I go home to Houston and see like our whole family friends, like a lot of the aunties and uncles will be like, Neville, I see your stuff online. I'm like, oh, where do you see it? They're like, we see it on LinkedIn. I was like, LinkedIn? I didn't even go on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, the agency posts on LinkedIn and I forget that there's like a bunch of people watching. And then, let's say something gets 3 comments, but you never know how many people see it. You never know who sees it. So it's difficult to tell nowadays, like where traffic comes from. So it's just almost like I guess the name of the game is like put it out on all of them.
Also, the ghostwriting services are doing really well right now. Like I have a buddy, he has this ghostwriting company called Thought Leader.
Okay.
And they've like signed up so many founders and they charge them like $5,000 a month. Most people, it's really hard to grow an X because you have to post so much. You don't really know the strategy behind it and you need to get a bigger account to repost you. Personally, how did you grow your Twitter account? Like were you super active or?
Yeah, it's simple. I had a rule for like 2 years, post every day and reply to 3 people. And then when you reply to 3 people, you're like, oh, there's some more replies I could do, right? So that was the minimum. So I posted every day for a year or 2, and then I would reply to 3 people a day. And I had different lists. So right now there's a lot of like politics stuff and Elon Musk and everything. So my main feed is all that, which is like pretty interesting, but at the same time, that's not my world. And so then I have another list called writers, copy, thinkers, stuff like that. There's all these marketers. And then I have one called Austin, which is all my Austin friends. So I first go to Austin, comment on all of them. And so that's how I interact. And like what comes out of those replies is like people see your replies, they see Neville Medhora, they click your profile, they go away. And then one time they see me again and they're like, oh, I see this guy all the time. Maybe I'll follow him. So that is really helpful to grow on Twitter, I think. And then posting every day teaches you kind of like what hits and what doesn't, right? And sometimes it's random. Sometimes it's purely luck. Like something you post, you're like, this is stupid. And then it like goes mega viral. So it's really difficult to tell, but you start getting a sense of like what is interesting to people. You start getting a little bit of
Were you
better
able
sense.
to track like what was driving like best quality traffic to your course? Were you able to like figure
It's
that out?
really stupid hard, man. And dude, in 2025 alone, it's got harder. All these companies like Ahrefs and stuff like that, SEMrush, they're just having a harder time getting solid data. There was an iOS 14 update that happened a long time ago. Google's been cracking down. It's social networks don't share their that stuff. So it's really hard to tell. Super hard to tell.
Especially with you because you have content on so many different like channels.
Yeah, I will say one thing you could do is look at the analytics of where referring traffic comes from, all the different social networks. So get this. So number 1, direct. Number 2, Google. So that's fine. Now what keywords and stuff, you have no idea anymore. Number 3 is going to be YouTube, actually. So YouTube sends really high quality traffic.
Yeah.
Number 4, I believe, is Twitter. And then number 5, get this. This is in the last couple months, ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, and here's the thing, the time on page, super long, like 1:30, which is very long. And then also the conversion rate, super high. So it's sending YouTube quality traffic from ChatGPT, which is kind of interesting.
One thing I like about for people like us who post a lot of stuff is I can go on ChatGPT and be like, tell me everything about Neville. And it does such a good job.
It's a great job.
Such a good job.
Yeah.
You'll tell me all your highlights, all the cool things you've done. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you for making my life easier.
It does stuff that you couldn't do before. For example, how much does Elon Musk tweet a day? Like I used to have to go count that or something like that. Yeah. Now you can just ask Grok or ChatGPT. Grok is good at it. You say, how many times does this account tweet a day? And it gives you a list. What was the general sentiment of every tweet? What was most 70% of his tweets? It tells you. You could not get that stuff a year ago. It didn't exist.
I really love DeepSeek. Have you used DeepSeek?
I haven't used it too much. I've seen all the demos. Yeah, I think the thing is like use one of these for months at a time. Yeah. What I've noticed is like, this is technology in general. You always have these demos where you're like, holy fuck. I mean, I got into this in 2013 with 3D printers. Dude, you just build something out of thin air. Like it just works. This has never been done in history. And you're like, everyone's going to have one of these. And then after using it for about 2 months, I was like, how much cheap plastic shit can I print out of my apartment? You just get tired of it. And I ended up using it just when people come over, like, what's that? A 3D printer? Oh, I'll print your bracelet or whatever. And so that ended up being the whole use case for it. And I was like, oh, this isn't like as revolutionary for consumers as I thought. However, it has taken over every architectural firm, every product design firm, every B2B manufacturing place has one and uses it all the time. So it's good to use these things for months at a time. Use Perplexity, the search engine. Remember, everyone's talking about that. They're like, this is going to kill Google. After 2 months, I switched back to Google as my default search engine. And I actually never thought about it. We really undervalue Google and how good it is.
Oh.
Everyone shits on Google. And I'm just like, get rid of Google for 2 months and come back and tell me that you don't think Google is awesome.
The use has gone down, but I wouldn't say
it has not gone down.
It hasn't?
No, it hasn't gone down. Also, people think like Google is just search. Google is your inbox. If you have a university inbox, guess who manages it behind the scenes? Google. All your logins, APIs, docs, everything.
Podcast studio.
Guess what it's hosted on? Google. You're using Google all the time. People are like, oh, I'm not using Google.
YouTube, which is owned by Google.
and then Google's like the 10 blue links, but like they also they have Gemini posting their own AI results, which are pretty good. They're not like as revolutionary as like Perplexity or something, but I will tell you, you don't need that for every single search. What you'll realize is like 40 to 60% of your searches is just like, where's a restaurant? How do I get to there? And it's just maps and stuff like that, or images, which all these other places don't do.
We know how Google Maps is, how much better it is than Apple Maps.
Apple Maps is caught up. I love Apple Maps. I actually really like Apple Maps now. I think it's pretty good. It's caught up. It used to be shitty, and now it's not.
So there are some quotes that I kind of want to talk about because in your blog you wrote some of the you have some like incredible information in swipefile.com. People go to swipefile.
Swipefile.com. Check it out. Sign up your email. Start saving your own swipes. We got a bunch of new features coming out.
So you said, I don't know if you wrote this or someone else wrote this, but we can uncover this. So sometimes the best copy to sell a horse is horse for sale.
Yeah.
I think it's just dumb it down, I guess, right?
Well, when people land at your page, what happens is, and I've done this with hundreds and hundreds of companies, they're like, okay, someone's going to land on a page. What emotion do we want to convey? They get really serious. They start thinking about it. And then they ended up putting something like let's say they're trying to sell a horse, for example. And they're just like, improve your world will be like their headline. Really like stuff that's vague.
Yeah.
And you're like, what in the hell are they selling on? And there's not even a picture of a horse. It says like horses for sale, Bastrop, Texas, and the picture of the horse and an add to cart button. That could be the whole thing. Like you don't need necessarily to make some sort of like big statement. So when people come to your page, do they instantly know what's for sale, right? If I'm like pen for sale, you understand what I'm talking about, right? But if I try to make some clever pun and I'm like, right to your world, and it's, right, and then I don't put a picture of a pen and show a picture of a globe, you'd be like, what the hell are we talking about, right? So sometimes just clarity is more important than trying to be clever.
That's a great point. It says, be interesting. Even if you have something interesting to say, your delivery can make people read or run.
Well, if it's boring, if it's boring and they don't want to read it, then what's the point? Yeah. How do you get to the meat quick? And I think actually with the shortification of videos, we've learned that the meat is good. You know how you watch, like, I watch some of these, my nephew will like watch like these videos. It's like throwing darts through giant balloons and it'll be in a stadium. And it's like these like just like fun experiment things. It's like a 20-minute long video. And if you look on YouTube, like everyone just like fast forwards to the part where they throw the dart. And then on the shorts, they just show the dart throwing. Or Red Bull is really, really good at just showing their shorts where it's just like, they show the motorcycle jump. They don't show all the build up to the motorcycle jump. So it's like gets the meat really quick. And I think copy should be the same way.
One thing I want to ask you, like outside looking in, it looks like you're like a solopreneur, but how much do you delegate out?
I have an assistant that helps me out that I've had for years. And then I have a lot of contractors. So we have some writers that help with the copywriting course. I have developers that help with copywriting course and the swipe file. I have a guy who helps with SEO. That's not the main focus that we do anymore. And then I have an agency that I hire for video stuff. Yeah. And then I have this whole setup at home, but I actually go to a studio. And so I hire out a studio, have a subscription with the studio to help me with video recording the actual videos. So I do delegate out quite a bit.
But if you have a setup at home, why do you go to the studio?
I thought that it would be better and faster and save me time to not have to go to a studio. I was incorrect about this. So I got the whole studio set up. I hired someone to do it. I did part of it myself and it was really cool and it was really nice. But what happens is you got one camera, two cameras, three cameras, SD card, running to a board, camera, monitor, light, sound, all that kind of stuff. Is the audio going right now? I don't know. Like there's a guy like monitoring it. And when you are the interviewer, also writing the questions, researching your topics, and then like that camera's blinking, I'm like, fuck, let me check. And so it's really stressful. There's still like a lot of crap going on that can go wrong. And so you kind of need someone there to do it. So I would have to hire a producer to come to my house. Now he comes an hour early. He sets up. We're chatting. We talk about it. The host gets there, comes to my house, offer them a drink, tour the house, blah, blah, blah. And then they hang out. The producer hangs out. This is a 6-hour thing now. It's supposed to be 1 hour and it's 6 hours. And so it actually did not save me time. It was a lot more work. And I also have a wife. So it's like, if there's 6 guys just milling around the house at all times, she's trying to work too and sharing that space. And so that gets a little bit more complicated. So it's just like, let me just go to a studio. They have everything set up the way I want it. I pay a subscription. They change up the room just for me. They put all my props. I sit down, I plop down, bam, ready to go. They know all the settings. They know all the editing things. And it's just much.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, in Fight Club, they say the things you own end up owning you. Like,
yeah.
I think the less stuff you have overall, I think that's where the world is moving towards. Even this podcast studio is so automated. You just click one button. There's no SD card. Everything goes in the drive.
Yeah.
Everything's going in the cloud. So it's great.
Yeah. But I do outsource a lot of that stuff where it's just like these small things that like, I like messing with cameras and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's let someone else do it. And then I have a studio at home, but like I set up a lot of the stuff and picked out a lot of the equipment and it just never looks as good as when I go in the studio. Like those guys know what to do. Like they're better than me at it. Yeah. So I'm just like, let's just go there. Yeah.
And what's the next stage? Like, what's keeping you excited?
Business wise or personal?
Personally, congratulations, by the way. I know you
got married. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, both. maybe.
Business-wise, swipe file. I've always been excited by swipe file and copywriting course. I think we do really fun stuff in there all the time. So that is fun for me to do. I swear to God, I think this is what I always was like meant to do. I like to like just browse the internet and collect things and like comment on things and roast my friends online. That's what I really like to do. But if I had just like, 100 times more money, like I would just do that.
Same thing.
I would still do that. Like even on vacation or something like that. It doesn't feel like work to me to get on my phone and just like harass Sam or Noah or something online or collect and be like, ooh, that's pretty cool, and collect and put it in a folder and share it and talk about it. That doesn't seem like work. It just seems like my whole day is like dicking around on the internet, and I would probably continue to do that. I do think taking swipe file more seriously as a business instead of just a site where I collect stuff to use for later has been pretty fun, and working and getting a little bit of a team around it has been fun as well.
And how would that work? Like, would it be like a subscription service? It's kind of like an inspiration board, right?
It is.
But then it could be a great way to meet people too, who think alike, who are thinking in a similar way like you.
The current iteration of it is like, if I'm lacking ideas on a certain thing, go to swipe file. Like I'm writing an email, click on the email section. You'll see a bunch of stuff and be like, oh shit, I never thought of it like that. Well, what if I did like 12 reasons not to buy my product? And I show a product and they go, yeah, that's just really cool. And then they leave swipe file. That's actually the current goal for swipe file right now.
It starts with an F. I forgot the name.
There's one called Mobbin, I believe. That's for
Mobbin. I use Mobbin. Actually, I pay for Mobbin.
Oh, really?
So because I'm building a mobile app in health and wellness space, and Mobbin is like great because it shows you all the paywalls, like the whole user onboarding flow. Like, it's great.
Mobbin is good because it's specific. It's for apps.
Yeah.
It's specifically for apps. Swipe file is currently all over the map right now. So it's a little bit different. But what we added some features where we can track what people really like and say what they save and stuff like that. And we were realizing it's more emails, ads, web pages, stuff like that.
I think emails would do really well. Like
I think so too.
Maybe like the best or David Ogilvy stuff,
Yeah, reallygoodemails.com was another one that did it, and then it got acquired by like an email company, and it's I don't subscribe to it anymore. It's not as good, but I remember it being really good, and it was just like it really should be called reallygoodDesignedEmails.com because it's more about like, here's like cool designed emails. I mean, yeah, it was both. They go together, so something along those lines. Yeah, but it really is very helpful when we're doing client things. I could pull up different pricing things, different types of pages. So people are like, what are some examples of sales pages, that do well? And then on the spot, it's hard to think of like specific companies. Instead, I just go, well, let's take a look. So currently it's for that, but it's going to be much better. It'll actually start helping you create those things soon. So we got some features in the works that like our template bank and everything.
So I listen to a lot of My First Million, and they have this like, Sam is always promoting this copy that thing.
Copy that, yeah.
Yeah. So he just says you just copy existing writing.
Yeah.
I wonder in your course, what else is there? Like,
yeah, he learned that from me. Yeah. It's called copyright. I didn't invent it. It's just like a thing that's been around for a long time. We do have a module for that. I have a theory that after you copy 3 pieces of copy, that you experience diminishing returns. So let's say you copy Ogilvy's advertising for the first time and you're like, holy crap, he writes so simple. Or it's like these sentences are like a 5th grader wrote them. It's just so simple. Or the way that he injects humor or something like that. You learn that. Or the way he makes sure to capture your attention with a cool image, like something out of the ordinary, like a guy wearing an eye patch. You're like, is he wearing an eye patch? Like that kind of thing. And then by the second one, you learn some more. And then the third one, you learn more. But then after that, it starts to go down. So we have about a 10 sequence that we have people do. But by the third one, I think you've learned 90% of what you need to know. 80
you
to
have
90%.
to physically write, or you
You physically write it and then post it. Yeah. And so everyone sees your work.
Okay, I'm going to be a customer. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited to, because I feel like I'm great at cold emailing. I've gotten like a lot of good people to respond, and that will help me become writing even better cold emails.
And then also, I mean, there are all these, like Ogilvy was like in the 80s when he died, right? So he was like 60s, 80s is prime. And now there's all these different formats like Twitter and stuff. So you're like, okay, David Ogilvy wouldn't still just be writing magazine ads. He would be on Twitter saying things. Like, what would he be like in the modern day? And that's what I think about. Like, how do we utilize all these far more scalable, more trackable mediums like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever? How do we do that kind of stuff in the new age? So that's what Swipe File is based around, like this new era of content. Yeah, I do it actually for myself. Yeah, I've done it with David O. It works really well. Gary Halbert, really well. I do it for myself for like short clips. So sometimes I have a concept. I'm like, I want to explain like being a triple threat. Here's the blog post about it. Can you make me a podcast script written in Neville Medhora's voice? And it already ingests all my content. And it does a really great job. It's phenomenal. It's so good.
You made a video on YouTube. It was, again, the title is How to Scam People. people.
Yeah.
And it was such a great title to get people's attention. And of course, the video was totally not about how to scam people. It was about the art of being persuasive. What was how did you come up with that idea?
It was about fake ass internet gurus that take advantage of it, especially a lot of people in this like spiritual world, not to shit on that, but like a lot of them exist in that world. And they basically like kind of like I don't know, this like fake guru. And they take advantage of kind of just like, I don't know, I want to say dumb, but like gullible people. They take advantage of gullible people. They say all these vague things. They promise like, you're just going to be so rich. I see it in like people of color things. It's like all people of color should be rich, blah, blah, blah. You deserve this. And like, who the fuck deserves anything? No, you don't. You don't deserve anything. No one deserves anything. You earn it. And so I see that and it just like, I really didn't like it. And I didn't want to like write an article about like gurus and stuff and necessarily name anyone. And so I took this humorous approach, and it was actually a really mega viral blog post at the time that turned into a video. Yeah. And it was like all the ways to secretly scam people. Now the point of the article was do the opposite to actually make a good business. Yeah. So that was kind of where that came from, but that was a really, really fun article to write. That was a cool article, right?
That just was so outside the box. I was like, Neville is a comedic genius.
Yeah, that was a fun one to write. I feel like a lot of videos like those are difficult to make. Like it takes a long time to make something like that.
Yeah, how did you make those stick figure things?
I mean, I drew them. I just like drew them on an iPad, take them into Photoshop, edit out the background, put them on. Like it's like a really manual, stupid ass process. By the way, I know we're talking about AI and AI makes images and all that kind of stuff. I went on a hardcore kick with AI images, and I realized it would take me more time perfect the AI images to get what I want. And it always like never ended up exactly what I wanted when I was trying to do drawings. And I've actually moved back to manual drawings on my iPad. And now there's also tools like now I don't have to go into Photoshop. Canva, Google Images like are so good that I don't need like the background editing stuff for Photoshop anymore. So it's easier for me to make. I've gone back to like manual drawings, and there's something like a little bit different when everyone's doing AI drawings. You're doing manual.
Yeah.
Like it looks a little bit different. It feels different. I could also get exactly what's in my brain out onto the page. And I'm like, that's what I want. Exactly what I want. That's specifically what I wanted. Whereas with AI, I've had trouble really narrowing it down. However, whenever you podcast show notes, like after this show, I put the show notes, maybe you take notes or AI to take notes. We've been using AI to generate images for every single line of show notes. And we put that out as like a whole story. So we'll make 45 custom images, which I would never be able to have the time to draw for freaking show notes too. It's like, how important are these? Not that important. But with AI, now we could just like feed them in and do it all and make custom graphics, and people love it. So I use AI for that stuff, but then for like my own content creation, I've gone back to like literally like iPad, like just drawing.
The AI thing is like sometimes the photos are too perfect, in my opinion, and you can tell. You can tell when people post on Instagram and their skin is so like, and you can just tell right away. It's like,
well, I think it's just like it depends what you want to use it for. For me, if I want to draw a goofy drawing exactly from my head onto paper, maybe just drawing's better. There's a world for both. It's not like only AI, only drawing, right? And then if I want to do show notes, I'm not going to draw all that shit. I don't have time for that. I can't think of that many things. So AI is great at that. So I just think it's just like a divide and conquer type of thing. Use the AI where necessary.
So we're at the last segment of the podcast. I do want to ask you some rapid fire round with quick questions. What is the book you've given to most as a gift, or why? And what are 1 to 3 books that completely reshape the way you think?
Yeah, copywriting books is the Gary Halbert letters, the Boron letters. The Boron letters you get down for free. I would highly suggest printing them out and reading them the way he intended. Number 2, David Ogilvy's book, Ogilvy on Advertising. Amazing. The original direct response copywriter, all about testing. He would sell like how to change everyone in the UK buys rice. How do you do that kind of stuff? And then number 3 would be Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got by Jay Abraham. Those are my business books. If you're talking about fiction books, I'd say number 1 book every single person I've ever read, fiction book, read it before you go to bed at night. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, the guy who wrote The Martian. Also The Martian.
Is it a sci-fi book?
It's a sci-fi book, but dude, people that don't like sci-fi love this book. It is so well written. And Andy Weir, like he writes like a goofy like 13-year-old or something. He like writes at a very low level in a way, but talks about complex engineering problems, but makes it fun. I remember like learning engineering and chemistry from his books in a fiction book by accident. And I was like, that's genius. That's good writing. So I really, really love those books, The Martian and Project Hail Mary.
What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Shaving mirror. I like line up my beard in the mirror, and it's like there's like if you have a mirror, it like fogs up. And so you could buy these ones, it's just type in shaving mirror or whatever, like fogless. It's just like it's not a mirror, it's a piece of plastic that's really like mirrory.
But doesn't fog?
It doesn't fog. So if you just put it under hot water for like a second, it doesn't fog. So I just like throw some water at it. It's just up on the glass, and I shave in that, and it makes my life a lot better. The other thing is, and this is another shower related thing, buy a duplicate set of floss, a toothpaste, and a toothbrush, and put it in your shower. Brushing your teeth in the shower, very underrated. Do it.
I do that.
It's so
I
much better.
brush normally.
But here's the thing. I used to like take the toothbrush from my counter, then take it in the shower, then put it back.
Have a separate.
Yeah, have a separate one in a little basket on the side or something. Just it saves so much time and it's so much better.
Have things changed after your marriage, or you've been the same?
I mean, we lived together before, so it hasn't changed all that much. But yeah, you always have a buddy. That's kind of cool. Yeah. So I do think one thing I've noticed with marriage is like you always have like your best friend kind of with you at all times. So it's easy to just stay in and do less stuff. Whereas when you're single, you're like, I got to go out. I just stay at home alone. I got to have friends over. So you actually end up planning more social engagements. So we've made a habit of regularly planning things out. Also, as people have kids, time gets so compressed, it's very difficult to hang out. So I'll do things like my friends with kids, instead of making them pack up the car and stuff and come to me, I'll go to them and be like, I'm bringing a Chipotle to eat. I'm going to come over for like an hour and a half. We'll eat while you're eating and I'll leave. Don't host. Don't open a bottle of wine. Don't do any of this shit. Just come over, hang out, leave. Also, a lot of pop-ins, a lot of casual hanging out. You have to like schedule that stuff in. Whereas when you're younger, it happens a little bit more organically. So you have to be aware of that.
What is a failure, apparent failure, set you off for later success? It felt like a failure in the moment, but looking back, you were like, I'm glad I went through that.
I think like House of Rave being impacted by like Amazon, and you just like, it's just like, damn, it's getting harder and harder to like do this. And there's times where you're like, well, what am I going to do? Like, this is my main source of income, as some other small ones. But like, if this is going to go away, like what happens? That's scary because you don't know. You're like, this is what I'm good at. But then like this thing I'm not good at it is like going to go away. And so I also think the similar thing is happening with a lot of writers, people who are writing blog posts and like short emails for companies. Now a company could just say, hey, ChatGPT, write me 50 different versions of this. In 1 second, you get really good stuff and it gets better all the time. So I think a lot of people are saying, well, wait, like if this is just going to go away, what do I do? And so you have to start thinking like, how can I utilize this to do what I'm doing, but even better? And so I think a lot of the AI stuff, while it's taken away some of the lower end consulting that I used to do, which is like just free money, like really easy, also able to rapidly generate images. I'm able to take stuff and make it into templates rapidly. I'm able to count things and analyze data in a way I never was and make content out of it. So it's like, how do I take the cons and like make these things into the goods? So AI taketh away, but also giveth in a way. And so you have to be on top of that. And every generation experiences this. You'd be like, oh, I'm making horses and now this newfangled car is coming out. What am I going to do? It's like, it turns out all the biggest companies were like horse saddle makers, and then they started making car seats for cars out of leather. So it's like, how do you take your skills and use the technology to amplify them in a way that's bigger than before? So you think that something's actually destroying your career, and then you're like, wait, if I zoom out, I think it's just getting started because of this new technology.
That's incredible. What is the one or the best, most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It could be investment of money, time, energy.
Hiring. So that is pretty cool if you have things for them to do. Because I've had a personal assistant, two personal assistants in Austin where they were like in person, and like, I don't know what the hell I don't know what they did all the time. It was almost like more stressful trying to find random shit for them to do than like, and I was just like, I don't like pick up that much dry cleaning or like have that much stuff to do in person. I don't need that. So I hired an EA that wasn't just doing like small tasks, but rather like could actually put up blog posts and was like relatively technically proficient. I think that's very helpful. And then also just buying certain pieces of software and buying books, spending unlimited amount of money on my learning. Like a book, $18, fuck it, just buy it. Like I didn't even pay attention. I know I could get it from the library for free, but I want it now. I don't listen to as many audiobooks to do podcasts. Listening to podcasts and taking notes is a really big life hack too.
I found this new app where you can turn a book into a podcast, and basically, so it feels like a conversation.
Google Notebook LLM will do that with your content. Yeah, I've demoed it and then I never end up like using it. So I don't do that, but I do chat with ChatGPT on my AirPods. That's pretty cool. So you could, like, if you're coming over here, you're just taking a walk, you'd be like, research Neville Medhora. What are some questions I can ask him? It'll read it, then you say, no, find some more interesting questions no one's ever asked him about XYZ. So you can do stuff like that. But yeah, constantly being like, man, also another weird one is like just being on X and like keeping up to date with news. It's addictive, and then you also see like a totally different perspective than what you see like this whole narrative, mainstream media, whatever. But it's just like, you're also like, well, how is this so different than that? Like, what's the base source of truth? I don't care which way it leans. I'm just like, what is like the truth? Like, what is actually happening? And then when you start to see that, you start going, well, that's very different from what this says. And then like, it starts to make you think about different things differently. I think you could also get like a fire hose directly from the horse's mouth. Instead of reading the news about what some guy says, you see it directly what he said. And you go, oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah, I think Elon changed that, going direct to public. And now so many people are doing that.
Yeah, why do I need to listen to news about what someone
They
said?
don't need to write a press release. They can just tweet.
Yeah. I also think like exposing, like I never knew like people like Kanye West is crazy or anything like that. And Lex Friedman had him on his podcast, and I listened to that and I was just like, oh man, this guy's like a little bit unwell. Like he's a great artist, but he's like kind of a crazy person. And I never thought about that because no one would let him speak. And he spoke and people were like, you platformed a crazy guy. And I'm like, but I found out he was crazy by listening to him because I could make up my own mind about that. So I think like just being on the internet, being curious and connecting with people, following some big people in the world and what they're doing. And so when people say like billionaires are evil or war, blah, blah, it's like, what if you just like follow them and like see what they say? And then you'd be like, maybe my mind has changed.
Last question. In the last 5 years, what belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? It could be like you're in good shape. It could be a physical habit.
Yeah, consistency of doing anything. So if you eat well, but like then like fuck it up on the weekends, then you just like stay in the same place. But consistency, and I constantly struggle with it. It's hard. I'm actually about to post on Twitter that I'm like, I want to get down to my goal weight at 165 before the summer, and I post online. So I've been good about posting my goals online, and like I don't know if anyone pays attention, but the thing is, I think they do, and therefore I feel shamed into doing it. I think shame and fear is a really strong motivating factor to do something. So I know I'm going to a wedding in May in Huntington Beach, and I have to take my shirt off. We're going to be at the beach all the time, and I'm like, I want to be in shape for that. And that fear of like looking like a big doughy fat ass, like makes me take my workouts and eating more seriously. Yeah. So I think consistency and having a consequence for it. If there's no consequence, then like what's the point of doing the goal? So the consequence can be shame, or you have to donate money to something you don't like or whatever. Yeah.
It was great having you on the show.
You too, man. Thanks. You're okay.
Amazing. I love it.
Thanks.
You're like a machine.
Appreciate it, Matt.
In a great way.